Maintenance, constructability, cost. So lots of different variables. As an engineer, whenever we have an equation and it's got a whole bunch of different variables in it, they actually say that it becomes so complicated that it's indeterminate. So you can see that the problem that we have in considering all these different variables, it really becomes a push and pull of those different variables in finding solutions.
Some of our goals when we get overarching goals for the projects that we get involved with zoo enclosures is to protect the well-being of the patrons and the people attending the zoo, as well as the animals, while allowing for an intimate, immersive experience. In this industry of zoo enclosures, what's the difference between designing other type of structures is that on other type of buildings and stadiums and the other infrastructures that we design, there are a lot of very prescriptive codes. The International Building Code, the AZFA, and many other material standards that we can follow almost like a recipe to determine loading, capacities, and resistance. For an animal enclosure, the resources are somewhat limited. There are some guidance available. The Glass Association of North America, Ghana, has some really good design standards and safety guidelines. We'll share some of those with you later today. There are also some codes of federal regulations for animal treatment, and WASA and AZFA has some ethic guidelines for animal treatment. However, the prescription level that we engineers are comfortable with many times to following rules and standards is simply not there because of the sometimes erratic and you can't predict how an animal will react in any given situation. So when you involve someone like JEI that has experience of having seen many glass enclosure projects, we do our best to bridge that gap. So experience does matter. When you bring in an experienced glazing consultant, we have in our toolbox contacts and previous projects that we can retrieve information to bridge that gap from the lack of prescription.
I wanted to add in one little part of that. You can see the standards and resources that we've indicated up there, but do you know of any additional resources where it might give us a lot of information about the animal, the weights of the animals, the size, the velocity that they may be able to kind of approach in an enclosure? Those types of things are very important, and to date we really haven't found very many resources associated with those types of information. Any references that you know of? Yeah.
We have a viewing location for lands, but we discovered that sometimes the glass we use is kind of susceptible to scratches.
Yeah.
So it's strong, but you can see scratches. So.
Scratching is a big deal. Yeah.
I would guide you to AZA husbandry manuals.
Husbandry manuals.
You can go to aza.org and they'll have husbandry manuals on not all the animals, but many of the animals. And that'll give you some basis of like how far they can leap, how much they want to handle their all that.
We've been asking architects forever, and they don't know that.
Yeah. This is the process. So we can start with just googling what the animal weight is and speed maximum.
Yep.
And then you go from there, and it's negotiating process. So we talk to the animal husbandry team on the project, and we determine, basically using their knowledge, what the animal will actually run at, what speed it will run at. The weight is not negotiable, but the animal is a compressive object. They're soft.
They deform.
So that's the stiffness of our line.
Yeah.
So the logic is that it will run nose first, but it will never do that for its own, protection. So then we, through discussion, arrive at some area of impact, which is usually 6 inches by 6.
Yeah, good to know. Yeah, that's kind of work along the lines that
We'll touch about it a little bit, but
it is negotiated process. It is iterative. So we initiate it, but we always seek the animal experts.
Yeah, no, thank you. That feedback really helps. At the husbandry location, I think that's a wealth of information. And yeah, these are all negotiable variables. Sometimes the
Yes.
ownership,
Yeah.
and architects. And,
But after the negotiation, it has to be recorded. So it becomes
Yes.
part of the project documentation.
Part of the design documentation.
The specifications.
For legal and insurance purpose.
yeah, and we'll touch on that too. Who takes the liability, who takes the ownership of those specifications, which is part of the negotiation too.
Yep.